who would be the person that is interacting with the evaluation store? Is it a data scientist, the machine learning engineer? Who is like the right person that is going to be saying, okay, I want to do this or I want to do that, like you said. And I think this is a really key point, is how we learn this lesson in software engineering, like fix it once in one place and then have it get updated in all the other places, so you don't.
Well, we've
have
also
this
been burned
headache.
by that in machine learning in particular, right? Like this is kind of, in my mind, a big part of why feature stores are becoming popular, right? Is that like tons of like lots of teams ran into the problem where like, okay, if we have different people that are building the models then deploying them, then it's really, really easy to introduce bugs because the two teams define some feature differently, or like what feature gets updated in training and you forget to update it in production, right? And so I think to the extent that like that there will always be multiple parties involved in the development of machine learning systems, which I think in many cases there will be, then it's important to have a mechanism that forces you to standardize definitions of things like this. So yeah, but in terms of who will actually be interacting with it, I mean, it's kind of funny because all of these role definitions are still so fuzzy. I think, so when I think of machine learning engineer, the way I define that is the person who is responsible for productionizing the model. And typically that means that they're also responsible for maintaining it, but that's not always actually the case. Some companies want like analytics to maintain the models, or they want, maybe the people who develop the models to maintain them. So I kind of think of like the roles in the process of building a machine learning system, independent from like what they're called in most organizations, because that's another thing that's a mess. But I sort of think of it as like the machine learning scientist, who's the person who's training the model, the machine learning engineer, who's the person who's deploying and maintaining it. And those can often be the same person. Sometimes they're not. And then you have the platform team. The ML platform team is a thing in many organizations, like MLOps team, if you will, the PM, and then the business stakeholder, right? Like the person whose work this thing is influencing. I think the interesting thing about this is when you actually think about who needs to use the evaluation store, it's actually all of those folks, right? Because one thing that everyone who has a stake in the model really cares about is like having a say in how that model is evaluated, like how we decide whether it's good or not. And they should have transparency into how the model is doing right now. So I actually think like one of the other functions a tool like this can play is like being a sort of glue between the different stakeholders that are involved in model creation.